What's up, you guys? Teddy Striker here, and UFC 325 is tomorrow, and here are my predictions for all the fights on the main card. Starting with the main event, we got Alexander Volkanovski rematching Diego Lopez, and I think we're actually going to see a pretty similar fight to the first one. I feel like the way that Diego Lopez fights, like in the way Volkanovski fights, I feel like they're always going to have like a bit of an exciting war, and I think we're going to see something like that again, but I do think Volk can pull it off again. I don't think Volk is going to get dropped this time around. I think he's going to be a lot more careful, a lot more locked in, and really dialed in at every moment of the fight. And I think he can, again, do something similar to what he did in the first fight. Really use his movement, land those power shots that he was able to hurt Diego with, use a jab, and overall just avoid the danger. And Diego, I think we're going to see a more calculated version of him, but I feel like as the fight goes on, he's going to get progressively more aggressive, and we're going to see a little bit of what we saw in that first fight, but Volk is just going to show that he's simply levels above Diego Lopez and win himself a bit of a more convincing 50-45 decision this time around. And hopefully after this, the UFC can start really booking the champions against the real number one contenders. But moving on to the co-main event, we have Dan Hooker versus Benoit Saint-Denis, and I'm going to go with Benoit Saint-Denis getting this done. I think he's shown a lot of improvements. He's getting better. He's staying active, and so is Dan Hooker. Hooker just fought last November, but I don't know if Dan Hooker is really getting that much better. I feel like Hooker's towards the end of his prime, whereas Benoit Saint-Denis is entering his prime, and that is a dangerous combination. I think Benoit Saint-Denis is going to get this done by third round TKO. I think he's got the strong grappling to potentially get Hooker down to the ground, and his striking has gone better. He was doing well against Mauricio Ruffi on the feet, and he's got that really nice left kick to the body and to the head that I think will be there against a guy like Dan Hooker. And I think Benoit Saint-Denis does have some relatively heavy hands that he can use, and I think we're going to see Benoit get this done by third round TKO. But then we've got Rafael Fiziev taking on Mauricio Ruffi, and I'm going to go with Rafael Fiziev. I think he's a better striker. I feel like he's faster, and he's got a great style to go against a guy like Ruffi, who's got that wide stance. Rafael Fiziev is going to be blasting those kicks to the leg, those kicks to the body, and those head kicks. And I think the way Rafael Fiziev is going to be closing that distance and working his close quarter boxing is going to make Ruffi a bit uncomfortable. A guy who really likes that kind of long range, and he likes when his opponents don't really have the best movement, and that way he can kind of style on them and land those flashy attacks. But I don't think it's going to work, and I feel like this fight is a little bit too soon in Ruffi's UFC career. I feel like Fiziev is a really high step up in competition compared to the guys that Ruffi has beaten in the past, and obviously he lost his last fight, so I felt like he should have probably gone against someone that was unranked, maybe against a guy like Drew Dober or a guy like Jared Gordon. But a guy like Fiziev, I feel like that's a bad matchup, especially when it gets in close, and Fiziev can work really well on the outside as well. I think he's going to be taking the kicks away, defend them really well, like evading them, and I think Fiziev will win a 29-28 decision victory. And then we got the return of Tai Tuivasa taking on Thaleson Teixeira, and I'm going to go with Thaleson Teixeira getting this done by I'm going to say second round stoppage. I think he's going to get to Tai Tuivasa. He's really big for the heavyweight division. He's tall and lengthy, and I think he can get to him. And to be honest, I don't really get why Tai Tuivasa is still in the UFC or why he's still actually ranked, because he's on a 5-fight losing streak. He hasn't won a fight since like February of 2022. If he loses this fight, it's going to be 4 years since his last victory in the octagon, and that is pretty surprising. But I feel like it's this might be the end of his UFC career. I feel like the UFC might cut him after this. I know he's got a big name and he's a recognizable face in Australia, but you can't just go 0-6 and still be in the roster when you've never really been a champion or like this consistent main eventer. So I think after this knockout loss he's about to get, I think the UFC might have to cut him, and I think he might actually retire from the sport. It doesn't seem like he's got the same fire. Like he even talked about it. He had to find his love of the sport again. He was falling in and out of love like Tyron Woodley of MMA. And I think against a guy who's going to be hungry, especially after a knockout loss, coming back after his first career loss, I think that's not going to end too well for Tai Tuivasa, and I think we're going to see his last fight in the UFC. But then we've got Quaylin Salkild taking on Jamie Mullarkey, and I'm going to go with Quaylin Salkild, getting this done by first round KO. This guy is really, really good. He's a great prospect. He's big for the lightweight division. He's like 6 foot tall, but you can tell he's like a bigger guy, and he's got great skill. He's very well rounded. He's got excellent kicks and kickboxing, and also he's got strong wrestling and grappling, but I don't think he'll need it in this one against Jamie Mullarkey. I don't really trust Jamie Mullarkey's chin. I feel like he's been through a lot and taken a lot of damage in his career, and I think he's going to be getting slept in the first round of this fight. But those are my predictions for all the fights on the main card of UFC 325. Let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you guys for watching. God bless. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.